Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Michelle.
And for those of you that are new here, welcome to our channel. My name is Jessie, and we are Moms on Crime. In this channel, we talk about true crime and paranormal stories. Today, Michelle has a story for us that is true crime and paranormal. So, what are we talking about today, Mama?
I'm going to tell you the strange story of Teresita Basa. But before I get started, I just want to remind everybody, please go ahead and subscribe now to our channel, and that way you can come join us every time we upload. So, Mama, the story is so weird. When I came across this, I don't know, it gave me the creeps. It's such a weird story. So the story of Teresita Basa, she was born in the Philippines in 1929, and her upbringing was very privileged. She was the only child to both of her parents. Her father was a successful lawyer in the Philippines, and she was able to attend Assumption College in Manila, where she graduated. And in her early 20s, she moved to the United States, and she actually received her master's degree in music from Indiana University. And then she went on to study inhalation therapy, and she became like a respiratory therapist, I think it is. So she ended up settling down in Chicago, Illinois, and she worked as a respiratory therapist at Edgewater Hospital. I guess that hospital doesn't exist anymore, but it was in Chicago back then in the 70s. So she was described as a very reserved and polite woman. She was quiet, but she was very dedicated to her job and caring for people. She was very loving and hands-on with everybody that she encountered in her life. She also attended Loyola University at the same time, I guess, as she worked as a respiratory therapist, because she wanted to get a degree in music. So in all her free time, she was usually busy doing piano lessons or writing her own book, and she just led like a very quiet and reserved life. So that just gives you a little, look at how, like, the kind of woman she was. She wasn't somebody that lived like a high risk lifestyle. She didn't drink. She didn't,
Right.
she didn't do anything like that, right? She wasn't like a party girl or anything. So on the night of February 21st, 1977, firefighters were called to an apartment fire. And when they got there and they were putting out the fire, they found the body of a nude woman underneath a burning mattress. The woman had been stabbed to death. She actually still had a butcher knife sticking out of her chest. So it was discovered that it was Teresita Basa. She was nude, so they thought that they thought it was a sexual assault and homicide. But with a little bit more investigation, they found that she actually had not been raped. So they weren't sure if her clothes were removed to kind of like stage the scene to make it look like it was something else. And for sure, they tried to burn down the apartment to try to get rid of evidence and maybe her, right? There was no evidence. They couldn't find anything that could suggest why this happened to her. The only thing they found was a note in the apartment that said, "Get theater tickets for AS." But there was no full name on there, so they didn't know who that note was talking about, right? So they couldn't get anything from that. They pursued several leads, but ultimately everybody was dismissed that they looked at. There was no boyfriends to look at or anything like that. They did suspect, though, that the initials AS did have something to do with the crime, but again, they didn't know who that person was, right? So after they cleared everybody, they cleared her boyfriend, really all leads just dried up. And 5 months go by and this case just starts to go cold. But there was a strange incident that happened where a man goes to the police and he tells them that he believes his wife channeled the spirit of Teresita Basa and he knows who killed her. So
what? So is this just a random man?
Not a random man. Okay. So the woman that was married to this man, her name is Remy Chua. So she was also a native from the Philippines, and her husband Joe, his name is Joe Stachula. They both knew Teresita, but not very well. So Remy had also worked at the same hospital as Teresita, but not for very long, and they didn't have like a good relationship, but they both knew who she was. So the husband tells this story to the police that he came home one evening and his wife was taking a nap, and he said that his wife Remy began to speak in a voice that he did not recognize to be hers, and she was telling him that she knew who her killer was and that he needed to contact police. And in this voice, it told him that a man named Alan Showery murdered her. So his wife Remy wakes up from the nap and she has no recollection of that. She doesn't know what he's talking about. But over the next few nights, she begins to dream of Teresita, and she said these dreams are very vivid. And she's coming to her and telling her that this man murdered her. And Remy and her husband are still afraid to go to the police because, okay, this is 1977, but even now, if you went to the police and said, I had visions and she's telling me who killed her, you're either A, going to be looked at like you're crazy, or they're going to look at you for the murder, right? Thinking that you have information, but you don't, you want it out there, but you're not going to say that it was you, obviously, right? So Remy and her husband, they don't go to the police right away because they don't know what to do with this information, right? But again, Remy has another dream and her husband Joe is there. And again, she starts to speak in a voice that is not his wife, Remy. And I guess at several points it goes, she actually starts to speak in Tagalog, like the Philippine, their native, what do you call it? Oh, what word am I looking for here?
Dialect.
Yes, thank you. So she's telling him, Alan Showery murdered me. Well, first, I guess she's like, how come you didn't go to the police? Why didn't you go to the police like I told you? Alan Showery murdered me. And she begins to say, he stole jewelry from my apartment. And the police wouldn't know that because they don't know what's missing. And I guess she didn't have family. There was no family here in the United States with her, right? So she's telling him, he murdered me and he took my jewelry. He gave it to his girlfriend. So Joe and his wife Remy decide, okay, we have to go to the police. We'll just go and tell them what happened. So at first the police are looking at them like, you're freaking nuts, right? Like you're kind of weird. But the more they started to look into a man named Alan Showery, he actually did exist. He actually worked at the same hospital as Teresita. And he had a background. He did have a criminal history. So police were like, okay, let's just give it a shot. Because also remember the note that was found in Remy's apartment. I'm sorry, not Remy, Teresita's apartment. It said, get tickets for AS. Those initials are Alan Showery, right? So they bring him in. And at first he denied really even knowing Teresita or knowing where she lived. And then after some more pushing, he said, oh, I did go to her apartment to fix a television, but I didn't have the right tools. So I left and I didn't go back. Well, they called in his girlfriend and they questioned her. And she said, oh, he did give me jewelry. And she brings it in. And I guess they showed pictures. They took pictures and they asked people that knew Teresita, and they did confirm that that was her jewelry. So they go back to Alan Showery and they ask him more questions, and they're pushing and asking more questions. And he finally does admit that he was going to go back and just rob her, and things went wrong and he ended up murdering her. He confessed to the whole thing, and he did disrobe her to make it look like a sexual crime. And I guess he just panicked and he wanted to do anything he could to hide it. So he was convicted of murder, but there was a mistrial and he pled guilty. So I guess because he pled guilty, he only got a 14-year sentence for murder, and he's out of jail now. He got out in 1983. But
oh wow,
I thought this story was so crazy because, okay, so there's a few theories that came up. People were saying, do you think that Remy and her husband had maybe overheard a conversation with Alan Showery, maybe at work? do you think she heard people talking and she wasn't sure how to come forward, so they made up this story about a dream and about her being possessed or channeling the spirit of Teresita to get the information out there to the police? Or is this paranormal? Did Teresita speak through Remy from the grave to solve her own murder?
I think
what
it
do you
is.
think?
I don't know. I think it's the latter. I think it is paranormal.
Because if you just overheard the conversation, why wouldn't you just tell that? If you only overheard the conversation, why wouldn't you just say, I heard him talking and...
Yeah. Because if you just heard it, then there's nothing to worry about, you know? Like, oh, I just heard it. You can investigate it. You know, I have nothing to do with it. But then when the first incident happened, they were kind of hesitant. I mean, who would blame them, you know? Like, I wouldn't blame them. Like, yeah they're going to think we're crazy, or they're going to think we're the murderers or we're the suspects. But I think it really did happen. Maybe Teresita, she's trying to channel, I don't know, other people. I don't know how the other realm works, but maybe she's trying, and then for some reason Remy is kind of
like sensitive,
special, gifted, connected, or, you know, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But that is insane.
I believe it's paranormal. I think that she solved her own murder from the grave, because that is crazy. Because, I mean, I think if I just overheard a conversation, I would tell the police, I overheard this conversation, and I think maybe he had something to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't make up a story about her speaking through me from the dead, and especially in 1977. I mean, even now, it's still, you know, not widely accepted to be psychic or have gifts. I mean, it's way more now than 1977. In 1977, you were going to get looked at like you were a psychopath, you know?
Yep, exactly.
I think
that's crazy. I think it is paranormal, especially in the dreams. She's probably like, you know what? No, you got to catch the suspect and give me peace, give my family peace.
And I thought it was interesting because, like, when I'm looking for something to talk about on here, I'll Google, like, different, like, I'll either do true crime or I'll do weird true crime stories or crazy with a twist, you know? So that's how I found this one. And I guess this one was actually featured on Unsolved Mysteries in their second season back, way back in the day when it was on originally. And we've been totally into that lately. So I thought it was kind of interesting that it was on back then, because when I was little back then, that show scared the bejesus out of me. So
right.
I don't even want to watch it on there now, because that dude still scares the crap out of me.
Like the music and everything.
Yeah, I'm not having it. I didn't watch anything about this. I only read. I was like, heck no, I'm not watching that.
Right. What would you do, though, if somebody, like, challenged you from the dead or something?
I mean, I would go to the police, but that's crazy. That is
it's so hard though. It's kind of hard, you know, because it's like a dream. You're like, I dreamt of it. I don't know if it's real. Like, what is it, you know?
Yeah, but she spoke to her husband, who was wide awake, and he said that the voice that she was speaking in was not his wife's voice, so he didn't recognize it as his wife's voice at all.
Why did that give me goosebumps?
And the name, because they found that note that said AS, and that's his initials. Like, it's crazy.
That's true.
Creepy.
Oh my gosh.
So, Mama, that's my story of Teresita Basa. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as us. I mean, this is so creepy, and it really makes you think. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to go ahead and like this video.
And also, don't forget to please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that every time we upload, you guys will get notified. And also, if you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, you know, you can follow us on our social media. We do have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Momsoncrime. And also, you can email us at momsoncrime@gmail.com. And that's all we have for today. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.